You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phone. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas.
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 19th day of March, 2020. Father, we come to you today to pray for our nation and the nations of the world. We pray for our leaders. We pray for all leaders, all governors, whether a nation is governed by a king or a queen or a president or a prime minister. God, we pray for each one that they may fulfill your plans and your purposes in whatever they do, wherever they are. We ask your blessing on those that are seeking to follow your ways. And we pray for your mercy on those that are deliberately defying you as the Creator God. God, we know that you're the one who places rulers in their high positions of honor. You're also the one that removes leaders from their elevated perches. And we pray that in your grace and mercy, you would look down on the nations of the world and intervene with those that are oppressing their own people. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. And whether at a national level or in local communities, we pray your blessing on these men and women that are seeking to follow your way as they implement their authority. But Lord, we also know that the opposite is true, and that those who defy you, the living God, will come to no good end. Father, we pray for mercy, and we pray that you would convict the hearts of the leaders of all nations to turn to you and protect the people that are having to endure this time, and for those who live in nations unlike America, nations that have corrupt or evil governments. Father, we commit this situation into your hands. All of our faith, hope, trust, and our future is in your hands. In Jesus' name, we pray. All right, thanks for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. If you can't see the screen I have up, go to our homepage at CFRN.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered in about 30 seconds, and that will give you one-click access to the show each and every day. On the days you're out of the office, away from the desktop, not to worry, point any internet-connected browser to CFRN.net/live, and there you'll find a live real-time simulcast of the show as it unfolds. You'll also find us streaming live during the show on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. All right, let us take a look at a daily chart of the S&P 500. Well, I'll point this out first, I guess. Yesterday, I posted this chart. It's in the afternoon. Let's see what time that was. It was 1:28 Pacific, so that makes it 4:28 Eastern. Okay. My question, we had drawn a little price channel, and then this overshoot here, it really kind of stood out to me. And so I posted the chart and posed the question, could 2260 be the turn, in quotes? Certainly too early to tell at that point, and it's still too early to tell at that point. So I'm not going to come in here and tell you how we nail the bottom or any of that stuff. I'm just going to point out that the swing low actually was so far. And I'm not suggesting that we're out of the woods yet, but the swing low, come on, chart, 2262. Will that be the turning point for the coronavirus spring? Right there. I don't know. I really don't. I thought it was worth pointing out, though. There's something about it, as I looked at it yesterday, well, it stood out enough for me to post this. That's all. Nothing more. All right, let's go find a daily chart. And while this chart's sitting here, yesterday's Concierge Trade Alert, not today's, because I put none out last night. I'll explain that a little bit later. 20105. So we had a nice move. This is on the Dow. Then we got back above the trigger. And this morning we got back above the trigger one more time. All right, so the daily chart, here it is. This swing low put in December, actually that's going to be December 26th if we can get right over it. That was the day after Christmas, 2018. The day that marked the low of the worst December since 1932 that took us on the greatest rally, arguably, that the markets have ever seen. Well, that all went bye-bye. And we put in a slightly lower low. The low that we put in, this is on the continuous chart. The low put in on that December 26, 2018 was 2316.75. And as we established, the low of this candle, now that's today's candle, and this is the continuous, there's that 2262 that we're talking about. Okay, so from here, where do we go? Well, let's put some fresh fibs on here. And we'll just go from the high to the low. Overhead, the 24% fib for the S&P on the continuous chart. It's about 25,410, we'll call it. And here's your 38. So if we can get through the 24, we may find resistance there the first time up. Once we get through that, by the time price makes it to the 38, there's a good chance the BBC will also be in that rectangle. And that rectangle represents this swing low and this swing low. March of 2019, June of 2019. Okay? So from here, God willing, we'll see a rally up into this area. Of course, when price runs into this area of resistance, this 38% reverse fib, and the BBC, it will be a challenge for price to get through that. But once it does, and holds it on a pullback, then we'll get a run at this 50% reverse fib, which lines up with these lows right here. And there's the 62. There was a little double top right there. Okay. And then there's the bearish cross that set the whole thing in motion. Of all the obstacles I just described, just explained, this one may be the most difficult to overcome right here. You've got this swing low. You got this bearish cross around 32.67. I think the market will take a number of runs at that before it can finally power its way through. But I'll tell you what, the day that we take out this high and hold that on a pullback, there will be much dancing in the streets. All right, let me give you the numbers real quick from around the world. I hear Michael crackling in the background.
Yeah,
How you
I'm
doing?
here.
All right, yeah, no
Good.
worries.
I'm good.
No.
Yeah, I had a really good day.
Okay, excellent. All right, here's the deal, guys. Currently the Dow up 30. Let me refresh that. Let's see what's really going on. Okay, the Dow's up 32 points. NASDAQ is up 122. S&P 500 is up 2. The Russell 2000 is up 38. The movers and shakers there would be the NASDAQ, which is up 1 3/4 points. But the real shining star would be the Russell, which is up almost 4%. Now, those are the small cap. S&P 500 is 500 large cap. The Russell is 2,000 small caps. And I've always said that the small cap companies, the Russell, I see that more in line with the man in the street, okay? And that's where all recoveries come from. They come from the kind of grassroots level. So the fact that the Russell is outperforming the other indices to the upside, I see that as a sign of real encouragement, okay? In the commodity basket, crude oil up $3.48, trading 23.85 last. That's a gain of 17%. Gold up $2.60, trading 14.80.50 last. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei was down 173, 1%. Shanghai was down 26, 1%. The Hang Seng was down 582, 2.5%. And in European markets at the close, FTSE up 67, 1.25%. The DAX up 126, 1.5%. And the CAC up 55, a gain of 1.5%. So that gives us a red day still in Asia, but it is a green day in the UK. So far, it's a big green Radio Thursday here in the US of A. Let's go to Michael, get a recap of what happened in the live training room. John will join us, I assume, and of course today is Thursday, Dr. Tom Day, and we're going to talk today about the panicked buying of gold. So I look forward to that. Michael, it's all yours.
Okay, here we go. I'll take it over. Yeah, we had kind of a banner day today.
Excellent. We had a storm blow in yesterday afternoon. I mean, it was, especially after all the storms we've had over the last few weeks, this one was especially bad. We didn't have much of a monsoon season this year, so I guess it's making up for it now. But I shut down the whole studio, every computer, every screen, just shut them all down because we live in the desert, so when we get heavy rains, we're not really prepared for it. People don't know how to drive in the rain, and a lot of the equipment that the telecommunications companies have out there aren't really designed to withstand a lot of downpour.
Yeah, they're designed to withstand heat.
A lot of the newer streets, like in the neighborhood where I live in, we actually have storm drains. You know, on the side of the street, the little thing that, yeah. But if you go through a lot of the old streets in Phoenix, those streets were built as if they thought it would never rain. There are no storm drains. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same way over here when it snows. I mean, it snowed one time. Last year, I think we had 16 inches of snow, and they were off school for a week because they got like one snowplow. And and you know, they're just not prepared for that. And you know, up north when I lived up there, you know, of course, you know, you were stationed up there.
Yeah.
You know, well, they don't even plow the roads until you get like 6 inches of snow, but they prepare for it. You know, if they know it's coming, they'll go out and put some salt down ahead of time, salt and sand ahead of time.
Yeah, that's always good for the undercarriage of your vehicle.
Yeah, it's always good. It's always good. Well, my vehicle has never seen that. I don't think it's even seen snow since I got it last year. I don't think it's ever seen snow. But
well, there's big storms coming to some part of the country.
Yeah, the Tornado Valley.
Weather.com. What's the big news? I go to the Weather Channel and I get coronavirus news. 475 dead in 24 hours in Italy.
Yeah, there's a lot of, you know, I don't know if you've ever been to Italy.
No,
and I've been to different places.
I haven't, no.
Okay, well, I've been to a bunch of different places in Italy, and the population is really condensed. You know, where there is population, it's really condensed. And, you know, and there's a lot of old people, you know, the people who are really at risk. And
Well,
you know,
a petri dish for this thing is our nation's prison system. They're actually talking about letting the prisoners out.
oh yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
I just can't believe that they're going to just across the board let everybody out. I don't deny that there are probably some people in there who warrant being let out. I mean, the president already did this thing where they revisited some of the archaic laws in the past about nonviolent crime, and some of those people are already out. But let me just type in prisoners to be released. Now this hasn't been decided. I don't want to start a rumor. Well, I guess it's not a rumor. New York City to release some inmates to stop coronavirus spread. New York City will begin releasing inmates who are locked up on minor charges or who have health conditions to prevent the spread of the novel coronavirus in its jail system. Mayor de Blasio announced the plan Wednesday night, saying the city is looking to balance public safety with health concerns in its jails. An inmate and 2 staffers at Rikers Island have tested positive for the virus. And then I hit a paywall here, so I can't finish that article, but you guys get the idea.
Yeah. No, it's a mess.
And some overseas prisons, it says, have released, what does this say? The debate over whether to release, let me just start at the beginning. As the coronavirus continues to spread around the world, claiming lives and rattling the global economy, major U.S. prisons, such as Rikers Island in New York City, are considering releasing their inmates to prevent a potentially catastrophic situation. The debate over whether to release the prisoners follows Iran's move on Tuesday to free some 85,000 inmates from its deeply infested and dilapidated prisons. The United Kingdom, likewise, has suggested similar measures. When asked on Sky News about the possibility of releasing prisoners, General Secretary Steve Gillian said there are no plans now to release prisoners, but it cannot be ruled out. America's nearly 7,000 jails and prisons and correction facilities pose a fertile breeding ground for the virus, given inadequate health conditions in normal circumstances, as well as the inmates' close proximity to one another. Los Angeles is considering this. Cleveland. I downloaded a free app to my phone the other day, a police scanner, and I'm amazed at how many feeds there are.
You used to have to pay for that.
Well, you used to could buy a police scanner at Radio Shack.
Yeah, you could buy a police scanner, and then you had to pay for the what do they call them? Diamonds or whatever it was.
I don't
to get
know.
the different kinds of scans.
When my grandfather, after he retired from being a sheriff, so when he was a sheriff, they didn't have two-way radios then, at least not in our little town. So in his later years, he enjoyed listening to the police scanner, and my father-in-law, my deceased father-in-law, he enjoyed listening to it, and so I kind of got the bug for a little while and listened to it. But so I downloaded a free app the other night called Broadcastify, and it has 6,911 different feeds.
Wow.
And right now, 31,735 people are listening to these various feeds through the app. And then the top 25 feeds is the number one is the Cleveland Metro Housing Authority. So in inner cities, they have what are called the projects. I guess everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say the projects. It's usually, government subsidized housing is what it amounts to. But that out of all these thousands of feeds, that's the most popular one. And what's interesting is when you listen, a lot of police scanner feeds you listen to, you only hear the dispatcher. This one, you can hear the dispatcher and you can hear the police, and they're doing what you think they would be doing in the projects. They're, taking down drug dealers, and I mean, they're just very casual in their conversation. Now, there's usually a few thousand listeners. Right now, there's only 306.
Well, hopefully the other ones are working.
Yeah. So right now, the most people are listening to the Albuquerque and Bernalillo County Public Safety, followed by the Cleveland, and then after that is the Fire Department of New York. Covers Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island.
Oh, that's a lot of area.
Yeah. Now, anyway, so let you do your thing so we can
Okay.
shuffle
All right.
on here.
Let me just say one more thing about the scanners. You know,
yeah.
back when I was a kid, when I was 16, had my driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
My baseball coach, well, my dad had a scanner, my grandfather had a scanner, my baseball coach drove the ambulance and he was a fireman, and my girlfriend's father was a fireman, so they all had scanners.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked listening to it.
Crystal.
Until
When you
they
said diamond, you were talking about crystal. I think.
Crystal, yeah, that's what I mean. I liked listening to it until they heard my name come up on it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
What, did you get pulled
Speeding.
over for speeding? Well, another reason I guess why the projects in Cleveland are listened to by so many people. I'm guessing a lot of the people listening are the people in the projects that are, they got some kind of drug operation going on, and they want to hear if their door is going to be the next one to get kicked in.
Yeah, they get a little lead time.
Now, these feeds are all pre-programmed, but in the one that I think it was my stepfather, our father-in-law had, you could actually dial in, like a car, the old style car radio where you could just turn the tuner and find.
Yep.
Yeah, we used to could stumble upon like some, I guess, private police channels, and it was just a game of hit and miss. You just turn and turn, and you could hear cops like whispering. You could tell this was like a live on the scene kind of thing. So you can't do that with this app because everything's pre-programmed in. But I'm sure there's apps out there where you can do that, where you can just search the dial and see what you can find. So, I mean, people got to find some way to amuse themselves while we're in lockdown. Yeah, America goes in lockdown, and all those in lockdown get set free.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow.
I mean, I walk every day. I walk my dog
Mm-hmm.
every day, and I'm meeting more and more neighbors now because they're out there walking.
Right.
We keep our distance, but
Sure.
I'm just sitting here right now at my desk, and I see people that are walking around from my neighborhood. I don't know how many houses are in my neighborhood, probably 60, something like that. And it's all cul-de-sacs, and they're all linked, and there's 2 entrances, and I've never seen some of these people, and fortunately dogs can't catch it because everybody wants to pet my dog. And
yeah, Vic made a good comment here that the homeless population, that's a pretty big risk in and of itself. And a group of homeless people, California has all of these vacant houses that the state owns, some of them because they were bought up by the state to make way for new freeways and that kind of thing. So they come in and they take property by, it's called eminent domain.
Mm-hmm.
And a group of homeless people, they found this, I guess, like little neighborhood of houses that's exactly what happened there. And so they've just moved in. And the government officials are not stopping them because it kind of seems like the smart thing to do. I mean, these people, it just seems smart.
yeah, it's just craziness.
And I heard a guy raise a question this morning, right before the president spoke. He said, okay, all of these measures that are being put in place, going to send the checks, going to do this, going to do that. He goes, how do you stop that? Once you start it, you know, I had not given that any thought. I mean, they said they're going to send everybody a check. Okay. Then I heard they're going to send everybody 2 checks. Okay. But he laid it out in such a way that, you know, they've been talking about this, this guaranteed income thing. What's it called? You know, where everybody gets a check. They're doing it, I think, in Sweden or Finland or somewhere right now. There's a
I
term.
don't know. I was
for
listening
it.
to the speech.
This was
I
right
missed
before
part of it
this was
because
right
it started.
before the president came on.
Stimulus is what Joseph is saying.
No, not stimulus, Joseph. That wasn't the term I was thinking of. Oh, by the way, guys, Rich, one of our partners, he's going to be on Dr. Oz on the TV show. Him and his wife, they're home now, recovering. They were in the hospital. And I've got the message right here. So everybody, tune in. Let's see, Dr. Oz show, Friday the 20th. This coming Friday. Be sure to check your local listings.
So that would be tomorrow.
Yeah, right. So check your local listings for whenever the Dr. Oz show comes on in your area, and you'll see Rich and his wife. I guess they'll be broadcasting from home. But,
Tim says universal income.
yeah,
But
that's
let me get
it.
into this.
Thank
'Cause
you.
we still have.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Universal income. That's what I was trying to get. Okay, it's all yours. Take it away.
I'm going to be quick with this. I mean, it's going to be like a minute. John's out there waiting right now.
Okay. All right.
so
I'm going to go get a
like-
cup of coffee. So when you're done, just open John's mic.
Okay,
All right.
I will do that. All right. So today, guys, I'm not going to go through every single trade. I'm not going to go through the charts. I'm just going to tell you what we did. Okay. And I'll show you. Look. Oops. That blew up on the wrong monitor. We made 116 ticks. Well, actually only 109 during the room, but I placed one more trade. And so we're up 116 ticks on the ES today. Just since Dwayne and I have been talking, there's been a ton of opportunity. And what I said the other day still stands. You know, look down here at the slingshot. When the slingshot looks like it's giving you a trade, look up at price, see if you got a trade, put the trade on. Okay. It's, you know, it's a wild ride. It really is. But, you know, we made 109 ticks in the room on the ES. And you can see this is all during the break. There is just so much more opportunity. I could have made another 100 ticks right there. You know, and I did 109 ticks while still answering questions and phone calls and all that other stuff. But I know John's going to come on next, and then Dr. Tom. And, you know, on a trade like this, I'm sorry. Let me bring that back. On a trade like this, you see how much I left on the table? And that was because I slid my cursor to the side to bring my DOM over so that everybody could see it. Could see that it was really going on. And I left, you know, probably, I don't know, 15 ticks on the table. So I'm not going to go through every single trade setup. I'm just going to tell you what we did. Okay, let me bring the spreadsheet out. Now, if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. As I always say. All right. Today is the 19th day of March, 2020. And look, last week, $1,772 per contract. Today, $1,572 per contract. I was off by $200 today. I really wanted to beat that. But then I got a couple of phone calls. I had to do some Ninja Trader stuff. And anyway. So we made 10 ticks on crude, 11 ticks on gold, and 109 ticks on the ES. All right. See if I focus. So today took 11 minutes and 2 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $112.50. And it really wasn't 11 minutes because I was 6 minutes late. It was really 5 minutes. But we took a total of 15 trades. So on the month now, we're at $9,025 per contract in a 2-hour time frame over 14 days, averaging $644 per day per 2 contracts. On the year, $15,977. That's over 50 days, averaging $319 per contract per day, per 2-hour day. Okay. If you have not taken a free trial, go to the homepage here at CFRN.net. Right over here in the right-hand column, you can click on apply.cfrn.net or scroll down to one of these. Either one is going to bring you to this page where it says, all we ask for is your name, your email, your phone number. You can tell us the biggest trading challenge so we can tailor one-on-one training just for you. Hit the send button, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click that link, we don't know you took the trial. And that's really going to wrap it up for me for the morning. Vic, sorry I didn't get your call. I did not have my phone with me, but I saw you called. Sorry I did not pick that up. All right, so I'm going to open up John's mic. And there it is. John, if you are listening.
Hi.
Hey.
Thanks very much.
Sorry to keep you waiting.
That's okay. The treatments that I was mentioning, or sort of the whole back on mentioning it, were mentioned by the president this morning. The Gilead's remdesivir has been showing a lot of success. It's been used in various places around the world. The big news is that chloroquine, they did a study in the south of France that was completed yesterday with 40 patients, and there was 100% recovery within about 4 days, knocked out the virus. So this is incredibly promising because it's widely available. It's very inexpensive, and
it's already created. So to create, to produce more is not going to be difficult.
And secondly, I think I mentioned yesterday, there's a company called BMRA, Buy America, shipping a 10-minute test. Can be easily administered. It's kind of a finger prick deal, and unlike the other ones, and they're shipping that around the world right now. So that should speed up the whole testing procedure very, very dramatically. That stock was $2 about 3 or 4 days ago. Just hit 20, I think 20 this morning, backed off a bit. Just giving you some idea. There's a Japanese anti-flu that's also working, almost 100% effective. So there's like 3 or 4, and also the AIDS drugs are the Kaletra, it's a combination of two therapies that also has been working in conjunction with these other, and Tamiflu also works. So that's
an expensive one.
Yeah. The thing is, look, the good news about chloroquine is it could be what they call a prophylactic. In other words, it could be a defense against infection. Mm-hmm. That would be monumental. And all of these antivirals end in VIR, and there's a pretty good chance that at least half a dozen of them will defend against infection, and some of them are already doing that. And of course, chloroquine is not an antiviral, but it's working as an antiviral. I think you have to take it with zinc, actually, because it's just like regular pharmaceutical zinc, because it kind of stops the virus getting in and doing havoc, in the lungs, which is the big problem. The other thing is that in India they've had some success as well, and also an Italian hospital in Milan has been using the remdesivir very effectively. So it's really starting to look like this can be brought under control. But if they can prevent this chloroquine is, I was going to say the chloroquine is a potential preventive. The remarkable thing is that all the country, Africa is a big malarial Africa, Brazil,
Right.
equatorial countries generally are prone to malaria. And remarkably, they're the lowest, they're the lowest infection rates in the world. The infection rates in those countries is virtually negligible at this point. Now, it may not remain that way, but that's the way it is at the moment. And some of them still haven't.
The spread of the virus and the life of the virus is actually related to temperature as well, isn't it?
It is indeed. So, look, Thailand and Singapore are really incredibly well under control, but they're starting to spike up a bit. The Korea, as we showed yesterday, Korea is starting to top out. China has potentially almost eliminated the virus cycle, so that's pretty promising for the US. But to have these possible preventives and early treatment therapies available, so for people who have symptoms, they can get on it right away. It's probably going to slow down the death rate, possibly even minimize it or even eliminate it, which would be gigantic if they can do that and get it to enough people in time. The trick is to get the treatment as quickly as possible. The markets are kind of responding. It's kind of interesting that this buzz started last night and the market effectively bottomed during the night, along with a massive intervention by the ECB that helped. Then we came down, did a quick test this morning and came roaring back on, ahead of this conference that's going on at the moment with the president. So, and now we're starting to go back up again. So I really think, as Dwayne was pointing out earlier on, it kind of looks like we've put two strong tests down yesterday and today, and we're putting in a potentially awesome bottom right here. It's not, as he says, we're not out of the woods.
Okay, guys, we came down and touched.
We're not out of the woods. There is a risk of this unraveling either at any time, frankly. But if it does, it'll be kind of devastating. It would probably mean a whole new leg down to the sort of like 29 model, which would take the S&P down to like somewhere between 1750 and 1950, and then it might rally. But some of the stocks are actually rallying so strongly that they really look like the lows are in. In particular, Adobe. If you want to put Adobe up, Dwayne.
Yeah, sure. It'll take me a second to get the chart going. I had to reboot. So
yeah, they took that thing apart yesterday, down about $50 or $60, and then it turned around and went right back up, which was just amazing.
That's kind of what I'm expecting. Now that they're coming out with cures for it, and once they get it contained, knock on wood, before I get it, I think the markets are really going to rally. I mean, beyond. Just beyond what we've seen so far.
Right. I agree. And we're kind of poised actually for a big rally this afternoon. Might even go limit up the markets. So I think
here's Adobe on a 30-minute.
Right. Look at that. Put it on the daily. It looks pretty incredible.
There we go.
Yeah, look at that. That's really powerful. And it really does look like it's going to fly higher, this stock, along with Apple and most of the others that are the strongest. Listen, here's an interesting thing that probably nobody picked up on. You always got to look at major bottom. Look at the bottom on that of Adobe. Can you believe that? Jeepers. I mean, that is really, really, really sensational. I mean, you just don't see bottoms like that. That is the most encouraging looking stock practically out there.
Are you referring to this V bottom here, or this?
Yeah, it's that's just huge. Also, and this may be the weekend. If we finish up real strong today, possibly even tomorrow, we might have a weekend where instead of coming in Sunday night and getting the heck kicked out of us, we might actually kind of hold up or even go higher. So one of the things about market psychology is, there's a lot of, how many, even in the whole bull market and all this stuff that we've had to go through over the last 20 or 30 years, these shocks hit the market and they get absorbed after a while, and people kind of get used to them, and they kind of work from they have to deal with the cards you're dealt. So, and after a while, and so that's, we've kind of, the hang ringing and the worry and is starting to dissipate because people are adjusting to the conditions that are around right now, and the stocks are responding, and people are, I think the biggest, there's a plethora actually of good news developing, including this, what happened in China and how it's come to a screeching halt, almost amazingly, and the same thing could happen within a few weeks, going forward. So that would be enormously positive.
There seems to be some concern that here in the U.S. we're seeing more younger people affected, whereas in other countries it tended to be the older generation. And we were just discussing this earlier, John. What about this thing in Iran? They released 80,000 prisoners.
I don't know.
Now, I'm sure in Iran, a lot of the people probably didn't deserve to be in prison to start with. But what about the ones who did belong in prison? I mean, did we not just release 80,000 potential terrorists on planet Earth? I mean, I find that pretty good. That's one of the most concerning things about this whole issue. I mean, yeah. I was very surprised to see them even discussing it, much less to find out this morning it's already been done.
Yeah, and to see that there's still, lobbing rockets in Iraq and things like that, it just it kind of makes you feel disgusted. Anyway, this is another stock to take a look at is FedEx, FTX. FedEx put in a tremendous reversal this morning, and looks really, really good.
There we go.
Yeah. Look.
Oh, that's weekly here. Let's put it on daily.
Yeah. He said yesterday, when UAL, when United and Boeing are starting to rally, it's certainly a kind of a positive. Check out BMRA.
BMRA. Okay.
Yeah, look at that. Actually went up to 23, so pretty dramatic.
Is there some news to accompany this? Or?
Yeah. They it's fantastic. This is the test, the 10-minute test. It just came out of nowhere.
BioAmerica. There we go. Bio. Wow. So, I guess this is what they do. But any of these new products? So I have no idea if any of this stuff has to do with the coronavirus or not.
It's a press release about it 2 days ago. It came out.
Okay, all right. Well, fair enough. Let's look at the news. CJ Bio America delivers what? That's... I don't see the recent news. Let me just go here.
Just put BMRA and Yahoo or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. Go to Yahoo Finance.
The other thing is the Fed. The Fed is probably getting its act together in terms of market.
Up 66% today. And so the press release should be...
There it is. You missed it. Down a bit more. No, up a bit, sorry. Up. There, that's the one.
So you actually get your results in 10 minutes?
Yeah.
10-minute test for coronavirus exposure utilizing blood from a finger prick can be performed anywhere by trained professionals. They've begun shipping samples of the test to multiple ministries of health and government agencies. Price point of this single-use disposable product as low as $10 per patient. Well, that's encouraging.
I mean, that's one of the most powerful releases this whole cycle.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
If it holds up, if it works.
Yeah.
And this whole testing thing. I mean, you get tested. Your test is negative, but that doesn't mean you're not going to encounter it tomorrow and contract it. I mean, not that I don't think we should be doing the testing. Of course, we should. But I think if someone is told, that their test is negative, they just kind of go back to life as usual, and they really need to still be careful. And this business with these kids on spring break down in Florida, still partying it up on the beach like it's 1999. I mean, I guess it's America, and so they declare martial law. But it's things like that. It's these young kids defiantly choosing their course of action is the very thing that could force the powers that be to enforce martial law. You look out the window of your nice neighborhood, and you've got these big Humvees with guys hanging off the back with machine guns, patrolling the streets in your neighborhood in America. I mean, God forbid that it ever comes to that. But if people don't willingly honor these shelter-in-place orders, then the government will be left with no other choice. All right, what else you want to take a look at?
Well, take a look at public enemy number one, which is the UVXY, or the TVI. We'll put the TVIX.
TVIX?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, it's obviously down today, and that's...
well, it hit your 1,000.
Yeah, potentially a big reversal developing, but it's if it goes back up, which it still could, that would be a problem for the markets, and just looking at it as the way everything looks right now, it actually looks pretty constructive. In terms of a pretty dynamic bottom being put in place, from which we can basically hopefully gravitate higher to and maybe actually rally substantially higher. It's kind of like, I think looking at the way the press conference went this morning, I think there was an air of confidence and progress about it, and I think there's so much power being put to this: scientific power, manpower, monetary power, that it's unprecedented. It's even more dramatic than after 9/11. So, or the financial. This is the most dramatic response to a crisis in history. And as the old Fed, as Bernanke used to say, they never did enough. The Fed never did enough in all these previous situations. I don't think they're going to be accused of that this time. I think they're going to do more than enough.
Hey,
more
Doc.
than enough to get out of this.
I agree. Hey, Dr. Tom, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's
John-
always nice to be welcomed.
Yeah, good to have you with us. Just want to make sure you got in before John left, so that if you had any
thanks,
questions.
good to-
No. You don't have to take off, John. I just want to make sure you guys had a chance to
Okay.
say hi.
Yeah.
How's it going, Brother John?
Well, we're surviving so far. Being careful, of course, and trying to navigate our way through these very volatile markets as well as a tough assignment. But
Do you have
other
toilet
than that-
paper?
sorry.
Do you have toilet paper?
Just ordered. I think got some more yesterday.
We ordered.
You know how you know if you're really prepared is when Costco calls you up and wants to buy some of your toilet paper.
Okay.
We got 96 rolls from Walmart for $45 delivered.
It's insane down here in Florida. There's not any store, any place that's got toilet paper. So I've been telling people, save your newspapers and save your Sears catalogs and so on, like people used to use.
Look, it's the fear. It's I think the the panic is how long people are likely to be confined to their homes. If that's why the shelves are bare. So
Yeah. Well, it seems like that the one thing that's spreading faster than the virus is the fear itself, the panic, and people just need to slow down and take a breath. This is basically, it's a virus, the same virus that caused SARS, same virus that caused MERS. They're all coronaviruses, and they're going to find a way to deal with it. They were talking about today the chloroquine. That would be fantastic because that's something that people have been taking for decades for malaria. And if that really works, then that doesn't have to go through a tremendous amount of testing.
Did I also hear that that's used as an arthritis treatment, or was he talking about a different medication?
No, there's an arthritis treatment that works as well. It's very expensive, actually. It costs about $1,000. But I believe this chloroquine actually has some applications for arthritis too. So.
Yeah. Well, I heard one guy talking about the fact that the chloroquine tablets literally cost pennies a piece. So that would be huge.
Yeah.
And if they would allow people to buy it just over the counter instead of having to have it prescribed, cut out a lot of the red tape, because it's a proven drug.
Have you ever taken that? Either one of you ever taken that malaria medication?
I'm on it right now.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I took it when I went to Africa. Every time you go, you got to take it. But you start taking it. I think it's about a week before you go. You take it the whole time you're there, and then you take it, I think, a week or two after you come home. You continue to take it, and that stuff it can make you very nauseous, and it can give you dreams like you're on some kind of psychedelic or something. It didn't affect me that much, but the rest of our group and the tales they would tell at breakfast about the places they had been in their head while they were trying to sleep the night before were. Do you
So there was
experience?
some flashbacks from your LSD days.
Yeah. Well, John,
took
did
it
you
in-
experience
in,
any of that? Any crazy dreams, stuff like that?
Yeah, you took it in Uganda, I think, right? Right.
But are you experiencing any of that stuff?
I had a kind of a funny night. Now that you mentioned it, kind of didn't know where I was when I woke up. For a minute, sort of like.
Yeah.
But
It's a powerful medication, that's for sure.
yeah, I'm not taking a lot of it, just a little bit. So, it's a little bit makes it feel a little bit kind of fuzzy for a while. That's the thing. But
My wife didn't tolerate it well at all. She was kind of sick to her stomach the whole time she was taking it. Now, Dr. Tom, you've got an interesting topic today. Are you going to use the screens? Do you want me to send them over?
Actually, what I'd like you to do, if you don't mind, is put up the Dow
Okay.
since the first of the year, because
Now-
that's basically when we started being aware the DGIE. And can you
I can.
overlay it with gold?
This charting platform does give me that capability. Now, tell me what time frame you want the Dow on. You want it on daily?
I just like if we could on one screen see from the first of the year on.
Yeah, there's a way to do
So
that
a
here.
particular time.
Here, let me figure out which one it is. I don't.
When China first started being semi-honest about what was going on.
Compare or add symbol. So we want to compare it to gold. Is that right?
We
You want to
do.
compare the Dow to gold, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. I believe we have done that. Now I could do it the other way too. I could put up gold, and then this little line here would be the Dow. So the candlesticks are the Dow on a daily chart, and the little orange line, that's gold.
Can you make it gold instead of orange?
Oh, I probably could.
I'm kidding. Goodness gracious. Oh, you can do it. Look at that.
We can do anything. Okay. That's kind of goldish.
Yes, that looks much better.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. What I want to talk today about is the panic buying of gold that's going on. Okay. As a friend of mine was pointing out this morning, we had 3 weeks warning of the crash of the stock market. At least, when the first notices were coming out that the coronavirus was spreading outside of China. I mean, for a long time, if you remember, 99% of the cases were in China, 99% of the deaths were in China. That's when we were being honest and calling it the Chinese virus.
Mm-hmm.
The World Health Organization, which seems to be in China's pocket, says, well, that's not nice. It's we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, so let's call it something else. We don't want to sound racist. Well, if it started in China, it's a China virus. If we didn't worry about that when it started in the Middle East, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, remember, MERS?
Mm-hmm.
They
Right.
called it exactly what it was.
Right.
So anyway, we had warning that the stock market was going to take a dump because, as I've been saying for the last year and a half, the market's just looking for an excuse. I don't, my opinion is that markets don't respond directly to events like this. If the market had been really strong and there's no problems, this might have caused a dip, but it wouldn't have caused something this big.
A greed-based rally is one thing, but a fear-based rally is something else entirely. And I believe what we saw over the past year was a fear-based rally. It wasn't the greedy. It was those afraid they were going to miss something.
Yeah.
And so
Fear of loss.
Yeah. Fear of missing out. Fear of loss. Sure.
So it didn't really matter what the trigger was. It could have been the Russia and Iran colluding to drive the price of oil down, because they don't like the fact that we had finally become energy independent, and but our energy independence is dependent on $70 oil, because the shale guys can't make money
Right.
at less than $70.
Right.
So they did that to hurt our economy. So we actually had 2 triggers going on here, but it could have been something entirely different. It could have been a fire in the Capitol, or any kind of bad situation. The market was waiting to go down. Now it's gone down a lot farther than most people expected. I mean, we're down basically around 1/3 from the highs, right?
Right.
And as the market's been going up, as you see there, gold's been going up. The question I've been getting, people have been calling me all day long, is why is gold going down now? Because, you know, it hit around very close to 1,700, and now it's dropping. But everybody I know, every dealer I know, every investor that I know that invests in gold, and myself, I just bought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of gold just a few minutes ago before we came online. This is probably the best buying opportunity we're going to see in a long time. But basically, you need to make sure you're buying the right kind of gold, which I'll get into in a minute. But to me, the gold drop is about liquidity right now. People are afraid, and so they're selling things that they normally would be buying with the market dropping. Usually, market drops, people buy gold, right?
Right.
But liquidity is king right now. But just for now, we're about to enter an era of what I would call unprecedented government intervention. It's going to make that bailout from 2008 look like child's play. We're going to be spending, it looks like, $1 trillion a month, not just fighting the coronavirus, but also trying to keep the economy from collapsing.
Right.
And there's nothing to pay for it. I mean, there's two really big problems. Number one, the government is promising to pay for a whole bunch of stuff that it doesn't have money for, but of course you can print it.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what's even worse, I'm sorry?
No, I was agreeing with you. They could always print it. Yeah.
Yeah. But what's even worse is the House bill, the Democrat bill, is attempting to force companies to pay their workers, so many weeks sick leave, so many weeks family leave, and so on like that. But at the same time, the governors and probably pretty soon the national government are shutting down the businesses. So, I mean, for instance, restaurants. Restaurants work on very small margins.
They do, very small.
They don't make lots of money. So simultaneously, one part of the government is telling them to pay money out to their employees who aren't working and who aren't productive because they're at home. And another part of the government is telling them you can't be open. So you have no revenue, but you have to magically come up with money. The problem is that these bars and restaurants, I'm not a big fan of bars, lounges, and so on, but let's face it, it's part of our economy.
Yep.
And when they lay their people off, they have no way of making money, and yet this bill's supposed to be paying them. So one thing, and this is just, I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I'm recommending to small business owners, don't just tell your people we're going to take a hiatus here and I'll call you and bring you back as soon as I can. Actually fire them, lay them off, because then they can apply for unemployment.
Yeah, I was thinking about that yesterday because they were talking about the increase that's coming in, unemployment claim, or is already happening in unemployment claims. But yeah, I think that's what really has to be done. You have to terminate unless they tweak the law.
Yeah.
There's a term, furlough. I know what furlough means if you're a military man, but if you furlough an employee, what does that really mean?
It means pretty much the same as it does for the military guy. You get to take time off.
Okay.
But I think the kindest thing employers can do is to actually terminate people. It still takes a couple of weeks to go through the unemployment thing and start drawing any money. But the ideas they're throwing around for Washington, the Democrats passed this thing where they want to just send money to people. Well, we're going to be sending money to people that don't need it, I mean, I don't think we need to be sending money to millionaires.
Right.
And they were going to send $1,000 to everybody, and then of course Bernie Sanders has to one up everybody, so he wants to send $2,000 to everybody.
Well, I saw a thing this morning that said 1,000 to adults and 500 to children.
Yeah. So your typical family, it would be
About $4,000.
$2,000 for the husband and wife, and then another maybe
so
$1,000 or $2,000 for the kids.
Yeah, so maybe $3,000. $3,000 per household.
That's not going to last very long. I think Trump's idea is much smarter because it takes care of two things at once.
Well, the average rent for a 3-bedroom home here in Phoenix, the average rent is about $1,500 a month.
That's actually cheap in Florida terms. But if they discontinue a payroll tax holiday, that helps the employees because that puts money in their pocket immediately. Their paycheck just went up. But then it also helps the small business because they're not having to pay the matching. I don't remember what they are exactly. I think it's like 14%, and employees pay half and the employer pays half. So that would get money to the people who need it right away. You don't need to worry about the people on Social Security because they're going to get their checks regardless. People on pensions, they're going to get their checks regardless. It's the people that are working jobs and the employers are cutting hours or in places that are still open, they're only allowing half the numbers of people. If you watch the press conference today, every other seat was filled. That wasn't by accident. They're doing the little social distancing. When we set up the room for, go ahead.
Right. Oh, no, you go ahead. I'll show you this in a minute. Finish your thought.
When we set up the room for the Bible college the other night, instead of putting 3 people at a 6-foot table, I spaced the tables farther apart and we only put 1 chair at each end. So each person is 6 feet apart, and then we spread the space between the tables because I knew some people were not going to come.
Right.
They're afraid they're not going to show up. So it worked out fine. We had a great class, and we gave them the prescription for the vaccine for the coronavirus. I'm sure you know what that is, Dwayne. It's Psalm 91. If you're a Christian, you can read that every morning to your family and claim it, because God says no pestilence or plague will come near you. But we have to trust in God. I'm not trusting in the government to keep me safe from the Chinese virus. I'm trusting in the Lord. I'm doing sensible things like staying farther apart from people and not going around and mixing in crowds and so on. But I'm not going to let this thing cause me to panic or be in fear.
Here's Psalm 91. Whoever dwells in the shelter of the Most High will rest in the shadow of the Almighty. He will save you from the fowler's snare and from the deadly pestilence. There
Yes.
it is, right there. There it is. The thing I was going to mention is instead of going to some government survey about what the average 3-bedroom home rents for in Phoenix, I just went to the listings for actual houses for rent right now. And this is what popped up: 1,800, 1,700, 1,600, 1,400, $2,000, $2,000, 1,600, 3,500. That must be in one of the tonier areas of town. Wow.
Probably has indoor plumbing too.
Probably. Now, this original page I went to was just talking about apartments. Just an apartment in Phoenix. It's $1,100. $1,165.
That's a 34% decrease. That's interesting.
3.61% increase over last year.
Oh, and
a
I saw the
0.34%
0.34
decrease from last
decrease.
month. Okay, yeah. Yeah, and
that's not a very significant number, so it probably didn't really mean anything.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
small percentage. But we could see rents going down a lot, because what's going to happen if people are laid off for a long enough time, they're not going to be able to afford to pay their rent, and they're going to go home to live with mama. And there's going to be a lot of vacant housing. So,
well, have you heard about the homeless taking over some of the vacant housing in California?
oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
There's some very strange laws about that. If they do that for long enough,
If they get some mail
not be
there,
evicted.
oh yeah, I'm familiar. If you've ever been a landlord, you're familiar with those kind of laws. Homeless takeover housing in California, which, you know what, these particular houses, the one that I read about, they were taken by eminent domain by the state of California so they could build new freeways or whatever. So these houses have been sitting vacant and fenced off for a long time. It makes sense to me that they should be used. I mean, this homeless situation, it's blaming coronavirus, homeless families seize 12 vacant homes. This is the one I was thinking of. A group of homeless and housing insecure Angelinos seized more vacant publicly owned homes in El Sereno on Wednesday, arguing that government officials have failed to provide the shelter that's necessary for them to remain healthy during the pandemic. The occupation followed a similar takeover Saturday when two families and a man moved into one of the neighborhood's dozens of empty homes, all owned by Caltrans. I'm assuming that stands for California Transportation. The state agency bought them years ago as part of a now failed plan to extend the 710 freeway. So the state bought up these houses, trashed the freeway, and so...
Yeah, the state should be tearing down the fences and opening them up to people. I mean, why not? It's perfectly good housing.
Absolutely.
It's a lot better than having them sleeping on the streets.
Yep.
But, you know, what I'm concerned about is economic creep. You know, like a car dealership, for instance.
Car dealership? Did you
shut
say?
down? A car dealership or any business has to shut down. Okay. It's not just their employees that are affected. It's all the other people that they contract with, or the cleaning crews, you know, all kinds of, it's not, you know, the average person that gets laid off by a large company is supported by two other people. So you're really laid off three people, basically.
Right.
If you got your business down. And, you know, it all depends on the kind of facility it is. I mean, shutting down restaurants, well, people can cook at home. No, they can do that. But if you shut down a garage, for instance, people can't get their car fixed. They can't drive. I mean, there's ripple effects throughout the economy that people are not, they don't have any way to deal with it. So I agree that temporarily, on a needs basis, the government needs to get money to people. But what's happening is
And if you're homeless, though, how do you even get your check? I mean, if the government wants to give you a check, if you're homeless, how do you even get that check? I have no idea how this is supposed to work out. If they're going to send checks to everybody that's on the tax records, I don't know.
I don't either. That's a very good question. But the first bill that the House passed was basically negotiated over a 24-hour period between Nancy Pelosi and the Treasury Secretary, Mnuchin. Trump must have a lot of trust in him because he basically did all the negotiating. Even the House leadership wasn't involved in it. It was just, they said that during one evening, there were 13 phone calls that went back and forth between them. They negotiated a bill. They brought it onto the floor of the House. They didn't even give him 1 hour to look at it. So, of course, all the Democrats voted for it because Nancy said vote.
Right.
And 40 Republicans voted against it because they didn't know what it was.
Right.
And everybody was trashing the Republicans, but I think they were right. I wouldn't have voted for her anything if I didn't know what was in it. Well, eventually when they looked into it, they had piled all kinds of Democrat pork into it.
Kinds of stuff, yeah.
Stuff
yeah.
that had nothing to do
Absolutely nothing.
with the virus. And so from what they're saying, that first 8.3 billion was just the tip of the iceberg. Phase 2 is going to be bigger. Phase 3 is going to be huge. And literally, we could be spending $1 trillion a month. Now, everybody said, well, we could just keep on printing money. Well, you really can't keep on printing money. I know that's a common belief, but think about it like this. Let's say you've got a factory and you make corduroys, right? Corduroy trousers. And they're not in style anymore, you know. So you keep on making them and making them, making them, and then what do? You put them in boxes, stack them up, and pretty soon they filled up your whole factory. You have no room to work, and then blue jeans are in style. So what do? You can't make any more blue jeans until you get those corduroys sold and out the door to get the money to make more.
Right.
It may sound like a silly analogy, but it works like this. The government can't just print money. They have to sell debt,
right,
to print the money. So
yeah, we got to make it look. We got to make it look legitimate.
Yeah. So if nobody's buying the debt, and I had a chart. I wish I could show it to you. For the last 40 years, most debt in America was bought by American companies and American investors and American citizens. And then we got wise to what was going on with the national debt and so on. So then it flipped, and most of the debt was being bought by foreign nations, central banks, foreign companies, foreign individuals. Now they've got this wise, and they've stopped buying. And guess who's buying the debt? We are.
We are, yeah, American taxpayers, sure.
The Federal Reserve is going in there, and they're the only ones who are showing up at the auctions.
They print money and sell it to us. It's just, how did this crooked system ever come into being? But that's probably a whole other discussion, but we've talked about it before, of course.
But for them to say that they're buying the debt, it'd be like you saying, and I've used this example before, I'm going to take $100 out of one pocket and put it in my left pocket, and then say you loaned yourself $100. It's smoke and mirrors.
That's exactly what it is.
So eventually, somebody has to really buy those notes, or we won't be able to print any more money, because the money will just become totally worthless. We will have hyperinflation that will make Germany look like child's play. There's a point where you have to stop and actually produce something. So we're going into a time period, hopefully not a very long one, where we're not going to be producing much of anything, and we're going to be spending even more money. Now, everybody get upset when Obama had $1 trillion a year spending over the amount of taxes. So the deficit was $1 trillion a year.
Yeah, so the GDP is going to have a minus sign in front of it. It's going to be a negative number.
They're talking 12, 13%. And, you know, Obama had said that the days of anything over 2% GDP are gone.
Right. Yeah. And those jobs, he also said those jobs aren't coming back.
Yeah. And Trump proved him wrong on both cases. Right. GDP has been, 3.5, almost 4. The 10% unemployment that Obama had, and the jobs were never coming back, they're back. And basically we're at full employment. Before all this stuff happened, we were at full employment. When you got 3.65% unemployment, some of those jobs, there's just people that don't want to work. They would rather do something else. And so it's really, when you get below 4.5%, you're at full employment. Well, now Mnuchin is saying if Congress doesn't pass all these bills and spend trillions of dollars, we'll have 20% unemployment. Well, it's 25% in the Great Depression. It's not a big stretch there. And they're literally, if you add it all up, we're talking about $1 trillion a month. We were really upset at $1 trillion a year. We're talking a month. When Ronald Reagan got elected president, he was really ticked off about $1 billion deficits.
Mm-hmm.
Now $1 billion looks like a dime.
Hey, are you able to see my screen?
I'm looking at it. It's interesting.
So, yeah, because we're throwing around these terms like $1 trillion. $1 million of $100 bills would be about the height of a chair, 3.3 feet. $1 billion in $100 bills stacked up would be higher than the world's tallest building. And then $1 trillion, 2.5 times as high as the International Space Station.
Yeah. Another way to look at $1 trillion is if you taped $100 bills together and went all the way up to the moon and back 4.5 times to the moon. That's $1 trillion. That's taping them in on in, not stacking them. So, but it's just another way of looking at it. $1 trillion is a number that is unimaginable. I mean, I don't think we can wrap our minds around on that much money. So the only thing we can do is protect ourselves, and as adults, just like the president's first job is to protect the nation, our job as adults is to protect our family first and foremost before anything else. And right now, the only real way to do that is with gold. But the panic buying is going on. I mean, I've talked to friends, dealers, stores. They say they have lines out the door, people waiting to come in and just buy anything that's made out of gold. So people are doing stupid things like buying gold jewelry, which in some cases is only 10/24 gold, or scrap gold.
Right.
You have no idea of knowing what the percentage of gold is. It's not even smart to buy gold bullion. Now, gold bullion is better than any other of the things that I've mentioned, because at least it will keep up with inflation. If you buy the ditto gold or the scrap gold or the jewelry, it's not going to keep you even with inflation, because the dollar is going to drop far, far more.
I just added the dollar to this chart. We've got the Dow, we've got gold, and then this little blue line, turquoise here, that's the dollar.
Yeah.
The dollar index.
So the stock market's trying to rally a little bit today, right? Which is welcome. But it's gone down so much. I mean, 10 to 20% correction. We're far, far past that.
Well, here's the daily on the S&P. So we are now back to the December, this is the December 26th low put in 2018. So we just spiked that, and could this be the turning point? Well, I offered up this yesterday afternoon, as it was right after it happened. We were tracking the S&P, so this went out at 4:28 p.m. Eastern. This really stood out to me, how we just poked out of this channel that we had and then popped right back into it. So I posed the question, could 2260 be the turn? And so far that's held. So I don't want to tout that I nailed the bottom or anything, but I hope I did. I hope we see a slow and steady recovery from here.
What's the maximum we were down? It's over 30%, right?
Well, the swing low for the S&P It's 2262. And then
Yeah, in terms of
today,
Dow,
today's
Dow
low,
got below 20,000 and it was almost at 30,000. So that's roughly a third of the Dow. And a couple of days ago was the worst day the NASDAQ had ever had, ever in history. So I think a lot's going to depend on the news swing. If they find a cure, then, or a vaccine, then things could turn around. But like I say, I think the market was weak. We saw too many days in the last year and a half where the market would drop, the Dow would drop 1,000 points and then maybe recover 500 the next day. And eventually we start going back up again. But those are signs of weakness. There's been a lot of weakness in the market. So even if Corona was taken off the table totally, we still got the oil situation, and we still got just the economy's going to take time to recover. That's why right now the market has lost all the gains that it's had since Trump took office. You remember on your show here, I shared something that I'd written in an article, like sort of an open letter to President Trump. Mm-hmm. I said, don't take credit for the stock market going up. If you do, you're going to have to own it when it goes down.
Right. Yeah, no, I remember you saying that.
Take credit for the things that you can affect, like cutting taxes, cutting regulations. Pat yourself on the back all you want to till you sprain your shoulder, but don't take credit for the stock market going up. And the one thing that could possibly hurt him as far as re-election would be if the economy just keeps going down and down and down, because that the Democrats are going to blame him for it. I mean, the day after the virus was discovered and announced, there was a hashtag Trump virus going around. Mm-hmm. Like if Mount St. Helens erupted, it'd be Trump volcano.
Yeah, we can't call it the China virus, but we can call it the Trump virus.
Yeah, exactly. So I was going along with it for a while. I was calling it COVID in my articles, and I said, that's a bunch of garbage. I'm going to call it exactly what it is. It's a Chinese virus. Okay, they produced it. It didn't just magically spring up in the middle of China's only level 4 bio-warfare laboratory.
Right.
It just didn't just happen.
No, I agree.
There's no question.
I believe this whole thing was engineered.
Yeah.
That's just my personal belief.
My only question is whether it accidentally got out, whether somebody got sloppy and got infected and carried it out in the population, because they at first they tried to blame it on this seafood market that's close by, mm-hmm. a couple of blocks from the warfare place, mm-hmm. Because some of the people that had eaten there had the virus, but then they discovered a bunch of people who had never been near the place had the virus. So it's probably just a matter of
the guy in Japan. Did you hear about him?
No.
He was when he was diagnosed as having it, he told his family members, I'm going to go spread it everywhere I can. And he headed out on the town for a night of drinking. In Japan, they have certain types of bars. They call them hostess bars. You can probably figure out what that is. And so he goes out carousing and drinking. And his family, very much alarmed, contacted the authorities. And they finally tracked the guy down in one of these hostess bars. And the police came in full hazmat suits, etc., and arrested him. And a number of people from that bar have now come down with the virus. I just read this yesterday. I don't know how that story ends, but obviously not.
Well, I do know that in China, the doctor that tried to blow the whistle on it mm-hmm. and warned other doctors, they arrested him, and he's now dead.
Really?
Okay.
I did not know that.
Supposedly he died of the coronavirus himself, but who knows in China. The first journalist that tried to get the story out, he has disappeared totally. He's arrested and nobody knows what's happened to him. So they tried to keep the lid on it for a long time. Sure. back to deliberate or accidental, I wouldn't put it past the Chinese to deliberately release the virus because they do not want Trump to get reelected.
Nope.
I mean, he is way too tough on them.
Yep.
So I'm not a conspiracy theorist, or whatever.
Right.
But if the theory's right, it's not a conspiracy. It's just like, I'm not really paranoid. If
honestly, I that's the direction that I lean in. I don't think this was an accident. I don't think somebody got sloppy. I think this was done with military precision.
Yeah. And there's a lot of things that lend this. I want to believe that it's an accident. I want to believe that they're not that evil. But these are the people that killed tens of thousands of people just for peacefully protesting. They drove over them in tanks.
Tiananmen Square.
I don't think that Chinese people are all evil or anything, but boy, they sure have evil leaders.
They do.
So I wouldn't put it past them. And some of the things that they've done since the misdirection, they said, well, it's not a virus, it's just a lot of people have pneumonia. Then they try to blame it on the seafood market. And then they denied that it was easily transmissible. And now the latest thing is the Chinese spy agencies are saying that the CIA developed the coronavirus and somehow stuck it into China's through their security and through the extremely high security in this biowarfare facility. And they were responsible, the CIA. And there was one lady at the press conference today. She had some guts. She asked the president, she says, what do you feel about people who are sitting here, right here in this room, in your presence, who are claiming the same kinds of things that the Iranians, that the Chinese, and the Islamic terrorists are claiming, and trying to blame you, with their fake news. And he handled it pretty well. I mean, he said, well, you're right. It's hard to believe that any American would do something like that. But that's what they're doing. They're colluding with the enemy. If I was president, I'd have them arrested. Good thing I'm not president, right?
Well, I don't know. But I think you're right. I don't think this was no accident. I think modern medicine and technology and the spies, I think we're all a little too sophisticated for this to have just oops. And then the propaganda machine that got behind it so quickly, so rapidly, I'm not dismissing that this is a serious issue. It is. Obviously, it's a very serious issue. I just think the measures that we've taken, as quickly as we've taken them, in hindsight, will probably be the smartest thing that we could have done. But I just don't understand how it became such a big deal so fast. I mean, look at our schools are shut down. If anybody wanted to harm America, well, what a gut punch this has been. I mean, just shut the whole country down.
The kids have no one to take care of them, and people say, well, the government should set up daycare facilities. Well, then that's the same thing as having them in school, right?
Yeah,
you got a bunch of kids with runny noses, touching each other's faces. I mean, like my wife used to call daycare centers like little walking germ factories.
Yeah, it's like a petri dish.
Yeah, because kids will wipe their nose and they'll rub their hands on another kid's face and
lick it off each other's fingers. Yeah, I know, it's pretty disgusting, but God, we love them.
So now we got all these kids. The parents have two choices: they stay home and take care of the kids, or they have to try and find somebody who will take care of it for them, or they can't work, they can't earn money. It's just all the problems are compounding on each other. As far as the president's response, I've heard a lot of commentators say the two smartest things he did were cutting off the anybody coming into our country from China, and then a few days later, Europe. Now, of course, the Democrats called him a racist for not allowing Chinese people to come in. Heck, he didn't care what color their skin was. You know, they could.
What did somebody
anything.
call him yesterday? An equal opportunity offender? Yeah. He doesn't care who he offends. I mean, he speaks what I believe he believes is the truth. And in most cases, many cases, I agree with him. I don't always agree with his delivery method or the name calling, but, you know,
Right.
He calls it as he sees it.
But those two decisions, wise commentators, epidemiologists, and so on, said those two decisions undoubtedly saved thousands, maybe tens of thousands of lives, because he acted expeditiously. Usually, leaders don't do something that drastic unless people are calling for it. But there wasn't anybody in the news media calling for it. There weren't any of these little weenie congressmen doing press conferences that the president should cut off travel from China. He just quietly did it, and that was a big risk because of a number of things. Our trade with China, the fact that 85 to 90% of all the antibiotics that we use in this country
Right.
come from China.
That's dangerous. That's, you know, how, I mean, which I was going to bring this point up earlier. How do we go from being the strongest economy the world has ever known 2 weeks? Well, we've known for a long time that most Americans or many Americans are a couple paychecks away from being, you know, destitute, homeless, etc. But apparently our nation was no better because 2 weeks ago we were the strongest economy the world has ever known. And now look at where we are in just 2 weeks.
Well, you know, the Bible says that the debtor is slave to the lender.
Correct.
China owns the highest percentage of our foreign held debt of any nation. And that's just the government. Then you add on that the hedge funds and the individuals and the companies and so on. They could crash our economy just by dumping all their treasures on the market. People say, well, no, they would never do that. It would hurt them. They'd lose money. Sure they would. But then they could come in and buy the White House. You know, I mean, they would literally be able to economically take over our country. They're already buying huge portions of our country now. So we have to get off our dependence with them. Electronics, they're all coming from China.
Right.
Even a lot of the stuff that our military uses comes from China. If China just cut off trade with us, it would be much worse for us than it would for them. So we have to gradually somehow wean ourselves off of China because we can't be in a position like where they control over 90% of all the rare earth in the world. They were smart. They bought it up under different company names and so on. But now, basically, you can't produce a cell phone or a tablet or a computer without these rare earths. And they either own them or they have long-term leases on them. So Chinese are strategic. They plan far into the future. They used to be the dominant economy in the world for centuries. And then, you know, Spain took over and they were the strongest, you know, the big dog as far as international economy, and then England, and then us. And we were the greatest creditor nation in the earth. We loaned money to everybody. And so the debtor was slave to us. Now it's turned around totally. We're the greatest debtor nation on earth. On a per capita basis, we have more debt than any nation that's ever existed on the planet. So economically, we're an empty suit. Okay, it's like the guy that comes around and tries to sell you something, and he's wearing this fancy, expensive suit, and he's driving this nice Mercedes, and he's looking good. You go visit him in his office, and he says, well, why don't we just sit out here in the waiting room? The chairs are more comfortable. Well, it turns out that the whole rest of the office has no furniture, and the Mercedes is leased, and that's the only suit he's got. Okay, but he's putting on a good front. That's basically the United States. We look good.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at our debt,
Look under the
it's
hood.
not
It's very scary. Yeah.
yeah, it's not just the $20 trillion of debt that we admit to. It's the $126 trillion. That's the real number. So that's more, if you add all that up, it's more than all of the assets of every individual, every local and state government, and the federal government, and all our national parks, and the highways, and your hound dog. Every single asset in the United States adds up to about $110 trillion. And our debt is $126 trillion. That's the true national debt. Not the $20 trillion they admit to, but when you add up all of the debt for Social Security, for Medicare, for Medicaid, all of what they call the unfunded liabilities, money that we owe, but we don't have any way to pay for. So let's get back to the solution here for a second, because you know I said people are panic buying gold. If you do that, you're going to end up buying the wrong kind. So, folks, let me encourage you to go to CFRNgold.com and fill out the form and read the 10-10-10 financial survival plan, because we could be going into a hyperinflation like the Weimar Republic in Germany had, like Zimbabwe did, like France's hyperinflation. People say that could never happen in America. I'm sorry, folks, it's already happened. Okay, our very first currency hyperinflated, and because it was backed by nothing. And then when we got the Constitution 12 years after the country was founded, and it mandated that money had to be backed by gold or silver, the real U.S. dollar, that was the first U.S. dollar, people got $1 US for every 100 continental dollars. Okay, the dollar became worth a penny. And there's a verified quote from George Washington himself. He said, with a wagon load of continentals, a person cannot buy a wagon load of victuals or food. A wagon load of money wouldn't buy a wagon load. That's insane. But that's how worthless our money became. So don't say that we can't have hyperinflation, because we've already had it.
Right.
And we had hyperinflation again when Jimmy Carter was in office. Now, it was not runaway hyperinflation like we usually think of, but when you get up into double digits, you get up above 20% inflation, that's hyperinflation in anybody's book. Okay, so when this happens, it's going to be the third one. And if you don't have gold, you're going to be in big trouble. If you have gold, you will be the wealthiest person in your neighborhood, because it'll be the only thing of value. The paper money will become worthless.
Tim asked a question: has this situation made investment grade gold cheaper?
Actually, no. Bullion has dropped off, but remember, I think this is a very short-term drop. I think we were on a nice trajectory. We almost got to $1,700. We were on our way to 2,000, and like I mentioned earlier, people are worried about liquidity right now, and so they're selling everything. They're selling stocks, they're selling gold, and so on, just to have liquid cash. But when the government starts pouring these trillions and trillions of dollars into the economy, then the very same people are going to say, darn, I shouldn't have got rid of my gold, and they're going to go back in and buy it. So I see this as a buying opportunity. Look, I'm in contact every day with high-end investors, because this is what I do. I advise them. Mm-hmm. And for the last year and a half, the smartest people I know have been quietly selling stocks and buying gold. I know this because they buy their gold from me. Mm-hmm. And they're buying, they're following the 10-10-10. They're putting a small percentage into bullion, but most of it they're putting into investment grade gold. And people say, well, why didn't they just dump all their stocks if they didn't believe in the stock market? well, then they would have crashed it themselves. That would have been the trigger. So very, very wealthy people have, for the last year and a half that I know of, and may have been going on longer, been quietly selling out of their stock portfolios and buying gold. That's what caused gold, particularly over the last, 6-7 months, to go from $1,100-$1,200 up to almost $1,700. So what we're seeing here is a liquidity crisis. Gold is going to turn right around and go up. And
well, let's back down to this support area here. Gold based out from, even if we just use this little portion here from November of 2019, through the end of the year 2019. I mean, this is where we finished up 2019, and this is what gold has done just this year so far. And now it's gone, but we're back to this same level of support. It was resistance here, support here, and hopefully it's going to be support here.
And every spare penny I can, I'm putting into gold. I've had customers just in the last 3 days that have called me up and they're scared to death. I've got $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever in the bank. Can you get me gold? And I'm having a hard time finding stuff for them because every place, some of these guys literally have lines stretching down the block. My wholesalers, where I buy my bullion from, I sometimes have to call 10, 12, 13 times to get through. They're just crazy.
Wow.
And here's the interesting thing. Another indication that gold's going to go up. Certain kinds of bullion products that a week ago I could have bought at a 2% premium. Now that gold has dropped, people are panicking.
Man,
the demand has increased.
Hammered. My goodness.
Oh, silver always does worse than gold. But products that I could have bought at a 2% premium wholesale are now costing me a 10 to 12% premium. So even though the price of gold is down, it's costing me more to buy it. But I'm buying it because I'd be crazy not to. Okay. So I want to give people my phone number. I don't usually do this, but it's 561-753-5998. 561-753-5998. It'll also be an email you'll get if you go to CFRNgold.com and you can contact me directly. That's my direct line. You can also, I'm going to be posting commentaries every day on Facebook. So you don't have to search for me because there's lots of Dr. Tom Barrett's in the country. Just go to facebook.com/DrTomTV. DR, no period, TOM, and then TV is in television. And if you contact me through Facebook, please make sure that you let me know that you heard about me through CFRN. Because anybody that comes to us by referral from this program, we make a donation to Dwayne's orphanage. So one other thing I want to mention is before this show, I went over to my bank and emptied out my safe deposit box. Now, why would I do that? And first of all, let me just tell you, I didn't bring it home. I took it to a very safe place. So don't look at my address, it won't do you any good. But it's not in a government-controlled facility. Okay.
Right.
And the reason
these private safety deposit boxes are becoming very popular.
Now, I didn't exactly say that that's what I did, but
no, I know you didn't. I'm just saying that they have become very popular.
I will not confirm or deny. Let's put it like that.
Right. We got one here in Phoenix called Iron Mountain. It's a pretty impressive place. It's built right into a mountain up in North Phoenix, up against the preserve, and so yeah, it would be pretty hard to. I think your stuff's safe there. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, But why would I go to the bank and take my gold out of the safe deposit box? It's much more convenient than the other place. That's why I keep stuff there. But why would I do that?
Because you could, on the morning of 9/11, I had 50 employees that I knew I had to provide for. I went to the bank to get to my safe deposit box to get some cash so that I could make sure that my employees were able to eat. And the manager of that particular branch in downtown Phoenix, he and I had been friends for quite a while, he was on the other side of the plate glass door. And I said, Bill, I got to get in. I got to get to the safe deposit box. He goes, sorry, Dwayne, I can't. I'm like, Bill, it's me. It's Dwayne. Come on. You know, he goes, I can't. And then he just kind of backed away into the darkness of the closed bank. And I realized that was a moment where, it was one of those moments where time just stands still. And I looked up at the sky and I said, it's just me and you, huh? And he said, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the good news is the banks...
They stayed closed for a week. Remember that?
But they did make money available through the instant tellers and whatnot. But you're not going to get... The contents of your safe deposit box, you're not going to get out through an instant teller.
Exactly. So, the government has to... They call it a bank holiday when they do that, which is so ironic because when I go on a holiday, I think of, you know, being in a hammock down by the beach,
right?
Sipping a nice tea, having a good time. A holiday is not being denied access to what I own.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm probably ahead of time. But if things keep on going the way they are, and they're talking about doing a curfew here in Palm Beach County to where you're not allowed to leave your home and stuff like that,
right?
They could easily shut down the banks.
Sure.
The reason they shut down the bars and restaurants is to give people less reason to go out. There's some countries in the world right now, the only businesses that are open, period, are pharmacies and food stores. Everything else is closed down. So it's total overkill, especially here. Let me encourage people to go to conservativetruth.com, conservativetruth.com. First, go to the archives. It's right there. Just click archive and go down a couple articles and read my article, Why All the Fear About the Coronavirus. And then go to the front page and read my 2 current articles that were posted on Monday. And it'll give you some perspective. The spokesman, John Hopkins,
right?
Or .com, either one.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah. There's the first article, Do You Want to Be Safe from the Virus? Use this daily in it. That was the, but read the whole psalm. It's fantastic. Scroll down a bit more. And there's the China virus on masks. This is a follow-up to last week's article. And then go to your left there, click archives.
Okay.
And scroll down just a bit. There's my beautiful wife and daughter. And stop. Okay. Why all the fear about the coronavirus? Okay. That's the one you want to read first because it gives you a lot of information there. For instance, these masks that you see people wearing, they will do absolutely nothing to protect you from the coronavirus. Zero, zip. Don't waste your time. People are frantically going around trying to buy masks. You might as well, put a Kleenex over your face.
Yeah.
They're useless.
Interesting about this virus, it cannot move of its own accord.
That's right.
That's the business behind don't touch your face because that's how it gets you. I think of when I think of a virus or something that's infectious, I think of it as like floating through the air kind of a thing. But apparently that's not how this works.
Well, actually, it can float through the air. But here's the thing: scientifically, a bacteria, which the masks do help with, by the way, okay, dust and so on. But a virus is so much smaller than a bacteria; it can go right through that mask. But a bacteria is a living organism. So it can live for long periods of time on a piece of metal or a stair rail or whatever. A virus is a dead organism, so it has to have a host. The host is either an animal, and in most cases, most of the viruses that attack humans come from animals, and they carry them, but they don't get sick from them. And then they get transmitted to humans. Now, the way we transmit it is person to person or person to object to person. So the coronavirus can live for up to several days on really hard surfaces like steel or hard plastic. That's why you need to scrub things down. But if you cough or sneeze within, we don't know how many feet, but probably a maximum 6 feet, more likely 3 or 4 feet, and I breathe what you just coughed, then I could get sick from it. That's why if you have not the coronavirus alone, but if you have that, or if you have the flu or even just a common cold, you should wear a mask to protect others. It won't protect you. It's kind of like learning CPR. I used to teach CPR, and I tell people, I really congratulate you for coming to learn something, a life-saving measure that you could never use to help yourself. You know?
Right.
But, you know, the masks will help protect other from your spray, all right? But as Dwayne said, most of it comes from touching your face. The average American touches their face 23 times per hour. And here's a little irony. There was a lady doctor from the CDC that did a 3-minute promo explaining about how you shouldn't touch your mouth or your nostrils or your eyes because that's where the virus gets in. So don't touch your face whenever you do. And while they were filming the promo, she touched her face.
Well, there was one lady the other day that she was saying kind of the same thing, and then she licked her finger to turn the page on her speech that she was reading from.
That was a good one.
So, check this out. Ever since New York's elite started fleeing the city for the Hamptons, there's been unusually large orders for food, wine, and for cash. One New Yorker who visited Chase branch in Southampton Friday said that a request for $30,000 was refused as the limit was $10,000. The person asked not to be identified. Branch employees said they had received other requests for withdrawals exceeding that amount and were waiting for a shipment of cash. Well, I know the last time that that someone I know attempted to make a sizable cash withdrawal, they couldn't even get $5,000 out of the bank. And there was no virus, there was no panic, there was nothing. It was just an ordinary day. What's your experience with that? If people have money in the bank, how can they get it out?
Well, there is a war on cash going on. You know, I talked about this a few weeks ago. There was a guy in England who had money in the bank, and he wanted to go down and withdraw $12,000 to pay back money he owed his mother. And the bank refused to let him withdraw it. And then they started asking me questions about how did he get that money and all that kind of thing. And finally they said, well, we'll allow you to withdraw $3,000. He said, but I need $12,000. They said, well, we're not going to let you have it. And this is HSBC, which is an international bank. They have branches here in the United States. So we're going to see more and more of that happening because they want to get rid of cash. They want to be able to track every financial transaction. And they can do that with wires, checks, credit cards, ATM withdrawals, and so on. So the best thing to do is just don't put your cash in the bank. I mean, your cash is more at risk in the bank than it is under your mattress because banks can shut down, and under the law, it can take, the FDIC actually has up to 16 years to give you back your money. In the past, when banks have failed, people have had their money within 6 months. But I don't want to be without it for even 6 months. But they have much longer than that. So is it worth the risk to make 0.5% or 1% that the bank can shut down or that inflation destroys the value of your money. You know, to me, I don't want money in cash at all, except what I need just for daily things. And everything else to me is in hard assets. I'm making like 24% a year on real estate. I'm making far better than that on investor grade coins, but I do like to have some diversification. And I just don't keep money in the bank. You ask me how people can get their money out, they have to do it gradually.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way.
Yeah, and you can't even, like, say you have money at such a bank, you would think, well, I can go to 5 different branches of the bank and take out the maximum of 300 or whatever. No, by the time you get to the next branch, they already know that you pulled 300 out of branch 1.
Right.
And you'll be refused. If you go in and write a check and pull money out, technically you can take out up to $10,000. $10,000 or more, they have to do a SAR, suspicious activity report.
Right.
What's suspicious about me taking my own money out of the bank? I don't know.
Yeah.
But they will do that. And you say, well, I'll just take out $9,900, and then tomorrow I'll come back and take out $90. No.
Yeah, don't think that flies under the radar. Don't think that's not pegged as suspicious, because it is.
Yeah, they actually aggregate, I think, for up to 30 days. So if you take out $1,000 a day, by the 10th day, a report's going in on you. So, you know, the only way to do it is just gradually pull your cash out. And if somebody gives you a check, don't deposit it. If you can, cash it. More and more banks don't want to cash checks. They want to make you deposit it, then withdraw the money. So there's definitely a war on cash going on in this country, because the government, I believe, just by their actions, is trying to force banks into consolidation. Remember in 2008, they forced banks to buy out other banks that were not in trouble. And they forced the banks that were in trouble to allow themselves to be bought out. You know, it's usually small banks, community banks, things like that. They said, you know, we're in good shape. Our balance sheet is good. Well, if you don't accept the buyout, we'll shut you down. I actually talked to directors of banks, members of the board of directors, who told me that they had that exact experience. So I believe what they want to do is get it down to 3 major banks only in the United States. Now, a lot of them will own bank chains that still operate in the old names. But like Wells Fargo, when they took over Washington Mutual, they continued to run it as Washington Mutual for a while. So you may see a couple of dozen different bank names, but really at some point there will only be 3 banks. Same thing with insurance companies. There'll only be 3 insurance companies. There'll only be 3 investment banks. So, you know, Smith Barney and Prudential and whatever, there'll be more consolidation there, because it's a whole lot easier for the government to take over 3 institutions and for the government to become the only bank you can go to, the only insurance company, than it is dozens or hundreds. So expect that in the future, folks. People are, you know, the government is going to take over unless we hire people that understand or at least have read the Constitution. I wrote an article one time called "The Last Democrat," and it was about not the last Democrat on earth, but the last Democrat that had read the Constitution. You know, we have people up in Washington that don't have a clue what's in the Constitution, and they're determining what's constitutional or not constitutional. So they're doing unconstitutional things, and they're taking over the entire economy. So if you want to do your part to make sure that doesn't happen, go out and vote in November and elect as many conservatives as you can find, if you can find any. And we can turn this country around and save it from becoming a totalitarian socialist state. But we are so close. Yeah, I'm sitting here listening to myself and I say, I don't want to even think this way. I don't want to believe this. But I know it's true.
Well, you know, for anyone that has dealt with that issue of trying to get money out of the bank and you run into that, well, what do you want it for? Well, what do you want it for? Well, what do you want it for?
None of your business, Jack.
Well, I think right now you've probably got as good an answer to give that teller as you possibly. And I just read here that Bank of America already has limited daily withdrawals to 3,000. Chase, there's some issues with Chase as well. There always has been, but anyway, if you go to a bank today, and I think you could just say, what's the maximum I can take out of my account? Consider, based on you have money in the account, what's the maximum I can take out? And whatever that is, when they get to the part about, okay, and why do you want this money? Because they're going to ask, maybe you haven't heard, there's this whole thing going on called the coronavirus, and I want to make sure I have cash on hand. I think that's a legitimate excuse. I think that's a legitimate reason. And you can just tell the teller, okay, by the way, when you open tomorrow morning at 9:01 a.m., I'll be here to get my allotment, whatever that is. Because I think that's just a legitimate reason. I think that's, you don't have to, there's no reason to hide it, no reason to, and I'm not suggesting that everybody try to get all the money. I don't want to, buy into the whole fear thing or be a part of creating this fear environment. But if you want your money out of your bank, there's no reason that they should deny you up to whatever the limit is. And different banks, this thing I just read on Bank of America said it's currently 3,000, but expect that to drop over the next few days.
Yeah, that happened in Europe. It happened in Greece.
Older people who did not have instant teller cards, had it not been for friends and family, because they were part of an older generation that had just kind of always done business in cash. They kept their money in the bank. If they needed some, they went and got it out. But once the banks were closed in Greece, they did make a certain amount of money, wasn't much, available to each customer through the ATM, but a lot of these older people had no ATM card.
On that note, can I make a few suggestions, Wayne?
Mm-hmm.
This has nothing to do with our topic for today, but just with humanity. Number one, watch out for the old people in your neighborhood. A lot of them don't have cars. A lot of them are dependent on public transportation, which will be restricted or cut off totally because that's people gathering. So they may have any way to be able to go and get food. So what made me think about it, I was at the grocery store today, and the young lady who was ringing me up told me that when she arrived at 9 o'clock, there were already 100 people standing outside waiting to get into the food store. I mean, that's insane.
Wow.
They never had more than 100 people an hour go through that store, but they were lined up. They were all panicky. So it doesn't have to be real to be a real problem. I was joking around my daughter. My daughter likes apples a lot, so I bought her like a dozen of these big Fuji apples, and I was joking with the teller. I said, I hope I don't get arrested for hoarding apples, If people think it's real, the perception becomes reality.
Right.
So that's why there's no toilet paper on the shelves anywhere. So watch out for the old people or sick people or whatever. Make sure they have food. Make sure you check in on them. Things like that. I have friends that live in California. They're being told you have to shelter in place, like there's a active shooter out there or something, and they're not supposed to leave their houses. Well, if that's the order that your government gives you, then don't go to public places. Don't congregate more than 10 people in one location. Do that. But for your own sake, go out and walk. Number one, You need exercise.
Right.
It reduces stress. Breathing fresh air would be good for you. They're telling you open your windows. We live inside air conditioning or heated spaces constantly. So go out and get some fresh air, get some sunshine. It will reduce stress, because if you're stressed, if you're buying into all the fear and panic, then you're more likely to get sick. And the other piece of advice I have is protect yourself against the flu. If you read my first article, you'll see that flu is actually a greater danger to you, and this is according to Johns Hopkins, to the average American than the coronavirus.
Right.
So why don't we hear anything about it? Well, because it's boring. Flu is not sexy, right?
Right.
The coronavirus is new and exciting. So, and they sell more ads if they scare you to death. But protect yourself against the flu. And that includes getting the flu shot, even if you've never had it before in your life. Because think about it. Even if you're not afraid of the flu, if you have the flu and your system is weakened and you come in contact with the coronavirus, you're much more likely for that virus to be able to latch onto you because your body is weakened by the flu. So keep yourself safe from flu. It'll keep you safe from the virus.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Dr. Tom.
Well, it's my pleasure. I will be praying for everybody that we're talking to today, that the Lord will give you wisdom and strength and protect you.
Amen.
Read Psalm 91. Get under the wings of the Lord. He'll watch out for you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much.
Okay. God bless.
All right, brother. Guys, good word for the day. Perfect peace. Isaiah 26:3. It says, "You will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you." Now, the secret to perfect peace lies in this scripture. It says, "You will keep in perfect peace all who trust in you, all whose thoughts are fixed on you." It's not your circumstances, but how you think about them that robs you of peace. Dr. Tom was just talking about that. It's the perception or the perspective. Perception is reality, is it not? Well, focusing on your circumstances will just cause more anxiety, because circumstances constantly change and often spin out of control. Peace and worry are mutually exclusive. Worry throttles your confidence, chokes your perspective, and suffocates your spirit. It robs you of the peace that comes from knowing the God who can handle anything and through whom all things are possible. The reason we worry so much is because we engage in exactly the opposite behavior to that which brings peace. Worry is like a no confidence vote in God. You may not intend it that way, but every time you give in to worry, in essence what you're saying is, I don't believe God can or will handle this burden and take care of the problem. God is either the object of your trust or just a part-time helper you call on when you can't handle things on your own. It's reminiscent of the elephant and the mouse who were walking together over a bridge. When they got to the other side, the mouse said, "Man, we sure shook that bridge." When you begin to see God as playing the major role and you the minor role, then you'll begin to find the peace which has eluded you for so long. That's our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy, and with His grace. I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.